Hi guys, G-Economics here. Now I'm going to have a look at oligopoly market structure. So you'll remember perfect competition on the one extreme, monopoly on the other, and somewhere in between we've got the market structure oligopoly, where we have a small number of large firms. Tend to be relatively big firms, tend to be fairly profitable firms as well. And some people do find this diagram slightly tricky in terms of its analysis and explanation. So the diagram that goes alongside of oligopoly is as follows. So once again, price, quantity, and we're going to draw on an AR curve. So you'll know that to be the demand curve, but the AR curve in this instance has a kink in it at this point here, which is why it's sometimes referred to as the kinked demand curve. And it's also known in some textbooks as the Sweezy model. So why does it have the kink in it? Well, it has the kink in it because oligopolistic markets are very well known for having price stability, and competitors all looking at one another to see what prices they are charging and simply charging the same price as their competitors. Obviously the sort of standard textbook example is petrol stations. So if you take this line across from the kink, we would have a price in the industry of P oli and a quantity Q oli. So before I add the marginal revenue curves, let's just say something about why we've got a curve, an average revenue curve, which in the first instance here, it's very price elastic, but when we move to this section here, it is very price inelastic. So why is that the case? Well, just think about it. If you're in an oligopolistic market, let's say you are, BP competing with Shell and all the others. Well, if you're BP and you think to yourself, oh, let's try and make a little bit more revenue here, let's increase our price. Well, what will happen is that you will increase your price, but no one else will increase theirs. And so you then lose all your customers, and the likes of Shell and so on, they gain all of your customers. And because the customer is so sensitive to price changes, especially if you think of things like petrol, everyone shops around for the cheapest petrol price, well, that means that the curve is very elastic and is very sensitive to the price change. So even though you might just say put a penny a litre on your petrol, for example, so it's quite a small amount, but you get a very significant reduction in quantity, and obviously that then has a very big impact on your total revenues. So to raise your price, you gotta be mad. It's just madness to do that. What about reducing your price? Well, why wouldn't it be sensible in an oligopolistic market to reduce your price? Well, these firms, they're all competing with one another. And so if I, Mr. BP, say, right, we're going to reduce our prices to £1 a litre, oh the days of £1 a litre. If I reduce my price to £1 a litre, then Mr. Shell, etc., Esso and so on, they will all reduce their price. And as a consequence, nobody wins in that respect, because we all reduce our prices, but we don't suddenly experience an enormous increase in demand, because everyone else reduces their price as well. And so you will lose out because you probably have the same number of customers, but you're taking in less money at every price level. So you reduce your price, you can see here, reduce your price massively by half, let's say, to here. You don't get a very big increase in quantity as a consequence, and so ultimately your total revenue would actually fall. And so reducing your price in that respect, again, it's just self-defeating. And so what you get is this very rigid price. It's very well recognised for being and for having price rigidity in oligopolistic markets. You get this very rigid price around the kink in the demand curve. The other interesting thing about this is, because of the kink, what happens is you get a discontinuity, it's referred to as, in the marginal revenue curve. And I hope you can see this okay. I'll maybe redraw this if you can't. What happens is the marginal revenue curve, again, it's below the original AR curve, but we get a discontinuity in that we go along to this price P Oli Q Oli, and then it doesn't reappear, it doesn't re-emerge until here. And the reason for that is that our marginal costs can change quite significantly between MC1 and MC2. They can go upwards, downwards, and we won't see any changes in the price level. And we won't see any of those changes in the price level for the reasons that I've just outlined. And so that is why we also tend to get this price rigidity in an oligopolistic market. So how do these oligopolies actually compete then if they're not competing on price? Well, of course, they're using other non-price methods of competition in order to encourage you to shop with them rather than someone else. So if you buy petrol at Shell, for example, you get a little loyalty card, you fill your car up with like, I don't know, £10,000 worth of petrol over a quarter, and you get a lovely little voucher from Shell for about 50 pence off your next Mars bar or something like that. So they're trying to encourage you to shop with them, not because they're better and compete more ably on price, but because they can compete in other ways. So that's oligopoly. It's a nice little diagram. It's one that hasn't recently been on the transport paper, actually, and certainly in recent years. So do be prepared to maybe anticipate an answer or anticipate a question which involves an answer on oligopoly. Okay, that's it.